Hi everyone. I hope I'm audible. And sorry for the delay. Actually, I got stuck in some other work, so I am late. Yeah. Let me know if I'm audible. Okay. Let me know if I'm audible. Okay. Thanks. Well, I'm really sorry for the delay. Okay. Now let's start. Okay. Great. So let me quickly share the screen, and we'll start with the session. Right. Hmm. Uh, well, so today we'll talk about matrix and string. The idea is we'll start with the matrix and then we'll solve some questions based on a string, right? We are already done with array, I would say. So yeah, I mean, we will talk about matrix and a string, right? There are very few common questions that can be used to solve some very common interview question, right? The first question is Boolean matrix problem. Okay. We can open this link for you. It's a very common interview question, right? So the question is, we'll be given, uh, just wait for a second. Yeah. So we'll be given a matrix, right? Like this. Okay. 1, 0, and so on, right? Like let's say if this is the matrix 1, 0, 0, 0, right? And okay, and the idea is if we have one at any index, like in this case we have one here, right? So in that case, we'll have to make that row and that column as one, right? Like, okay, so like let's say if this is the input matrix, right? Let's say if this is the input matrix, here we have one, right? So what I'll do is I'll make this row and this column as one. So we'll have one and one because I'm making that row as one and one, right? And also I'll make that column as one, right? Uh, so if this is the input, then this should be the output, right? Well, apart from that, let's say if we have a matrix like this 1 0 0 0 1 and 1. Let's say here we have mm, let's say here we have yeah, 1. Let's say this is the input. In this case, the output will be like I'll have to make this row and this column as 1 and this row and the second column as 1, right? So the output will be like I'll make first row as 1, right? Really, I'll have to make the first column, I mean second column as second row as 1 because here we have the 1, right? Also this first column will be 1 because here we have 1 here. Also the second column will be 1, right? So we'll have, basically if we have any one at a given index, let's say if the idea is, let's say if, I mean any if matrix of ij is equal to 0, right? Right. So 1, right? In that case, we'll have to mark that ith row, that whole row should be converted to 1. Also, we'll have to mark that jth column as 1, right? Okay, so I hope now the question is clear. Like, we'll be given a matrix with zeros and ones. That means will have a Boolean matrix, and we'll have to convert that matrix to something like this, where if we have, like, if at any index we have 1, in that case we'll have to mark that ith row as 1 and that jth column, I mean that whole column as 1, right? So I hope the question is clear. uh, I mean, you can let me know if the question is clear, right? And let me quickly do one thing, right? Okay, then how we can solve this problem, right? If the question is clear, then how we can solve this problem? Okay, let me share the link as well. Let me share the link of the question as well. And also, I have shared the link of that Google Doc on in the video description of all the videos on YouTube, right? Which is there. So this is the problem, right? I have shared the link. If the question is not clear, then you can have a look at it again, right? Take some time. Try to solve this problem. I'll be back in 1 minute. So you can take your time. You can try to solve the problem. So I have shared the link in the chat. Uh, so just take some time and just try to think about the solution. Okay. I'll be back in a minute, right? So just wait for a second, right? Yeah. So here we have the problem, right? Okay. Yeah, I mean that sounds interesting. So I can see some of the solution. Yeah. Okay, if I can, let me quickly. Uh, So basically, idea was like, I mean, let's say if we have matrix like this, right? Let's say we have 1 0 0 0 1 0 and 0 0 0. So basically, we'll have to mark that row, right, and that column as one. Like, because here we have one, right? So then we'll have to mark that this row, I mean this column and this row, because here we have one, right? The output should be something like this: 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 0, right? So basically, we are marking that row and that column for any given one, right? So that's the one thing. So the one solution can be like, we can simply traverse the matrix, and let's say if we are getting a value like 1, right? So let's say if for any given value matrix of ij, right, if we have 1, then what we can do is we can you know mark, or we can change all the values, we can convert all the values in that row as 1. Okay, and then we can traverse to that column to change, to convert all the values to 1, right? So that's the one thing. Okay, but if we are changing the same matrix, okay, it will not work, right? Because let's say if I'm here and I have converted all these values as 1 1, right? In that case, when I'll be at this value, right, I'll, okay, I mean, will not be sure that, okay, should I mark all this, I mean, this column as 1 as well, right? So if we are considering this one as a new one, or let's say if we are considering this one as the uh, I mean, again, there can be two cases. Like, if this one is the previous value, like let's say if this one was there, right? In that case, we'll have to mark this column as one, right? Okay. If that's not the case, if this value was 0 previously, in that case, we should not mark this column as one, right? So if we are making the changes in the same matrix, it will not work. So what we can do is we can have an extra matrix. So let's say this extra matrix will have all the zeros at the beginning, right? Let's say we have m cross n matrix like this. Okay. So I'll traverse in this original matrix, and let's say this is the extra matrix. Okay. So the idea is simple. If we will get 1 at any index ij in the original matrix, then what I'll do is I'll go to that corresponding ith row and jth column, and I'll convert that whole row and whole column to 1. Okay. So here we have 1, then this value should be converted to 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, right? Okay, so I'm not making the change in the same matrix, so that, okay, uh, like this 0 will not be overwritten, right? Okay. Then when will be it? So again, we'll iterate in the matrix like this. Okay. Then here we'll find another one, and for this one we'll again do the similar thing. We'll mark that row as 1 and that column as 1, right? Because here we have 1, so we're marking that row and that column as 1 1, right? Okay. And once you're done with this matrix, I mean this row, they will try to traverse in this row, and we'll be done, right? So basically, we are traversing in the original matrix, and then we are converting, and then we are making changes in the extra matrix, right? So that we can have correct answer, I would say. Yeah. Let me know if this logic is clear, right? This is the method one. This is not the most optimized way, but yeah, this is one approach. Let me know if it's clear. Okay, I can give you more time, but let me. Okay. Hmm. Okay, some of you are saying that okay, it's clear. Okay, that's awesome. Let me quickly do one thing. So just wait for a second, right? I'll in the meantime you can try to optimize this solution. This is the one solution which is not the optimized, right? I'll talk about the space and time complexity of this problem, right? So can you tell like what is the space and time complexity of this problem? Anyone who can like what is the space and time complexity? Anyone? N square is not correct, right? So here the size of the matrix is m cross n, right? So how it can be n square? Yeah. It's not. I mean m cross. Okay, let me explain like what is the time and the space complexity. So if you talk about this method one, right? So what we are doing is we are traversing in this matrix, right? So the cost will be m cross n for traversing this matrix. And let's say for each one, what we are doing is, let's say here we have one. So we are going to the extra matrix and we are iterating in that row and that column. So that will take, like how much time it will take to iterate in that row to convert all the values to one, and similarly how much time it will take to convert that column to all one. So again, to converting that row, it can take O of n because we have n entries in the column, right? And similarly, it will take O of m to mark all the values at a given column because we have m rows, right? So the cost of uh, marking, or I would say the cost of changing all the entries in a given row and a given column is m plus n, right? Okay, so for each number of one, let's say if you have x ones in this original matrix, in that case, the cost is nothing but x cross m plus n, because m plus n is the cost of converting a row and a column, right? So yeah. Okay, so again, the cost, so like traversing this cost is, I mean, the cost of traversal is m plus n, and the marking cost is x cross m plus n, because m plus n is the cost for one array. I mean one a single one, right? So if we have x ones, in that case the cost will be this, right? And in worst case, the number of ones could be this x could be m cross n, right? Because in the worst case, in the whole matrix we can have only ones, right? So in that case the cost will be m cross n cross m plus n, right? So it's in the range of, I would say, you can say like it's in the range of n cube. If let's say if the matrix is n cross n, right? In that case it will be uh, n cross m plus n, right? The cost will be n cube, right? Yeah. The cost is m cross m plus n. So this is the cost to solve this problem. This is the method one. Again, we can optimize things, but yeah, this is the one approach. Let me know if it's clear. And I hope that you can solve this problem, right? I mean, you understood this approach, right? Like how it's working. And also, if you talk about the space complexity, that we are using an extra matrix, so the space complexity will be how much? The size of this extra matrix, which is O of m cross n, because the size of the matrix is m cross n. Yeah. Okay. Some of you are saying once more, once. Okay. Let me explain. So what I'm saying is, let's say if we have a matrix like this, 1 0 0 1 0 1 0 and 0 0 0, right? So let's say we have an extra matrix which will be 0 initially, right? So I'm iterating in this original matrix. If I'll find 1 at any given index ij, then I'll go to that row and that column, and I'll convert all the values of that row and that column to 1, right? So I'll convert this value, this value, this value, this value, this value. So basically, this value will be all the values in that row and that column will be converted to 1, right? Okay, similarly, I'll find another one here, and for that given one, we'll traverse in that row, yeah, we'll traverse in that column to make all the entries to convert all the values to 1, right? Basically, I'm converting that column and that row as 1, right? And then we are done. So basically, for each given one, so what we are doing is like, again, the cost of the traversal in this matrix is m cross n, right? Apart from that, the cost of converting a row and a column is O of m plus n, right? Because we are going n and plus m for each one, right? So if we have x ones, then for each one the cost will be x cross m plus n, right? And the maximum number of ones could be, I mean, in some cases all the values can be 1 in the original array, right? In that case, the x could be, the number of ones could be m cross n, right? Yeah, that's why the time complexity is m cross n plus n. So it's a cubic solution, you can say. If m and n is same, in that case it will be n cube, right? And we are using an extra matrix. The space complexity will be m cross n, because the cost of, I mean, the space used by this matrix is m cross n. So this is the method one, right? Let me know if it is clear. No, time complexity is m cross n cross m plus n. It's not m cross n. Well, Aparna is saying why it's m plus n. So m plus n is the cost of, like, we are marking that row, so the cost will be n, and this cost is m, right? Because we have m rows, okay, and we have n columns. Yeah, that's why this cost is m and this cost is m. So it's m plus n for each one. Okay, so just okay, so it's a very good question, right? So you can give some time, you can try to solve this, right? So try to optimize the time and space complexity, right? So can you solve this problem in m cross n only? Like currently that cost is m cross n. So can you do something to solve in m cross n? Just take your time and try to come up with a logic that can help you to solve these things easily. So I'll give you 5 minutes, and in the 5 minutes you can try. Yeah, you can use variable, right? You can use variable. So just take 5 minutes and solve the problem. Try to solve the problem. Okay. And in the meantime, you can ask your question. You can ask your doubts. I can see your doubts in the chat section. Yeah? Well, just take your time and just think about the solution, right? Well, okay, I can see few of the solutions. Divanshi is saying we'll traverse the matrix and keep updating the value of row and column. So Divanshi, if we are changing the same matrix, I mean, it, it won't help, right? We need an extra matrix, right? So yeah, so we can't update in the same matrix. Okay, Akriti is saying instead of making it 1, we can mark as -1, okay? And then iterate the matrix again and marking position with -1 with 1. Okay, looks good. So, but what will be the cost, Akriti? What do you think? What will be the cost? So, what Akriti is suggesting, uh, so instead of using an extra matrix, what we can do is we can use the same matrix and like let's say if you have something like this, right? So like we'll traverse in this matrix and then so this can be considered as method 2 suggested by Akriti. Okay, so I'll iterate in the matrix when I'll have 1. So what I'll do is I'll mark all the values I mean or I would say I'll convert all the values in that row in that column as -1, right? So instead of using 1 I can convert to the -1, right? So we'll have something like this. So basically we'll convert. So if we have zeros, then we'll convert that value to -1. Otherwise, we'll keep it as 1. So for if it is 1, then we'll keep it same as 1. But I'll convert zeros to -1. And at the end, I'll convert -1s to zeros, right? At the end, right? -1 and zeros. So the idea of -1 is we can differentiate that, okay, this is the converted value. This is not the original value, right? And similarly, when we'll be at this index, at this one, we'll again convert that column as -1, right? And that row as -1, and so on. And then uh, will be okay. So the idea was like when we'll be at this value, right? This index, right? So here we'll have 1. Again, this is the same matrix. We're not using an extra matrix. These things we are between the same matrix, right? Okay. So basically, when okay now let's say when we'll be at this index, right? So here the value will be -1, right? So -1 means okay, it is not the original one. So we need not to convert that row and that column as 1, right? So I'll ignore that. So basically, if we'll have 1, then only we'll convert that row and that column, right? So yeah, so we'll have like in this situation, we'll have something like this. And now we can iterate, or I would say we can traverse that matrix again and we'll convert all the -1 to 1. So it will be something like this: 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, which is the desired output, right? So here the only thing that we are doing is we are not using extra matrix. Okay, so the space complexity will be O of 1, which is a good thing. But the time complexity will remain same, right? Because for each row and for each one, so let's say if you have X number of ones, then for each one, what we are doing is we are converting all the values in that row in that column as -1, right? Or 1, right? So that will take O of m plus n, right? And again, the number of ones in a matrix could be, in worst case, it could be m cross n. So the cost is m plus n cross m plus n, right? So that's the issue with, again, the time is same, but yes, we have optimized the space. Like now the space is O of 1 only. That's not like last time we were using extra matrix, so the cost was m cross n. But yeah, that is it's better than method 1. But can we do something so that the time complexity can be reduced to O of m cross n only? Can we do something? The hint is we can store, we can mark the rows and columns where we have ones, right? So let's say we have two array. One is row array of size m because we have m rows, and we have column array of size n because we have n columns. And the idea is will uh, okay, will simply mark the, so let's say if we have 1 in ith row, then we'll, so what we can do is we can simply write row of I is equal to 1. That means, okay, we have at least one in the ith row, so that means, okay, all the values in that row will be converted to 1 at the end, right? So that's the one thing. So you can think in similar way, like you can use two arrays and you can mark the rows and columns just to, like, okay, I mean, in which rows and in which columns we have ones, we have multiple ones or we have single one, right? And depending on that value, we can convert the rows and columns, right? So that's the one thing. So again, take some time and try to think about the solution. So that in that way we can solve this problem in m cross m time only, right? So take some time and try to think about the solution. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So any solution that, that you can think of, like how we can solve this problem in m cross n time? Okay, I can. Yeah. So there's Manikant, and Manikant is saying store the indices of ones and then make respective rows and columns. Manikant, that will also take m cross n plus n times. So it's not m cross n, right? So storing indices of one and one will not help you, right? Okay. Uh, well, I have shared the, I have shared the. Okay, Piyush is saying, look my idea. Okay, Piyush. Okay, if the condition, then again do. Interesting. Mhm. Well, so let me discuss method 3, which will optimize the time and space complexity, right? So let's say we have method 3. Okay. So what we can do is we can uh, hmm. like let's say we have matrix like this. Let's say we have matrix is m cross n. That means let's say it's a 3 cross 4, right? Let's say we have 1 0 0 0, then 0 1 0 0, then 0 0 0 0, right? Well, so what I'll do is I'll have an array called, let's say, row of size 3, because we have 3 rows, right? This row will be of size m. Okay? So the size of this row array will be m, and then we'll have another array called column of size n. Okay. So all the values will be 0 initially. Yeah, so we have n columns. So we have 4 columns. That's why here we have 4, right? So we'll have two arrays. I would say you can, let's say this is a Boolean array. So we have two Boolean arrays, row and column. Uh, okay. So initially all of these values will be 0. And then I'll iterate in this matrix. So I'll do one thing, like let me write some loop for you. Uh, yeah. So we'll have something like this. Let's say we'll have for I is equal to 0 uh plus, right, and again for inside that loop, what we can do is we can have for j equal to, let's say, 0 j is less than j plus plus, right. We'll have again another for loop, right. So I'm traversing the original matrix, and if matrix of I and j is equal to 1, then I'll mark that row and that column as 1. So I'll mark something like this: column, oh sorry, row of I is equal to 1. I'll mark column of j is equal to 1, right? So yeah, so I'll do similar thing, like uh, basically, like for, so when we'll be traversing in this matrix for this value, for this, sorry, for this right, for this one, what I'll do is I'll mark that 0th row, like I'll convert this row as 1, and I'll convert that column as 1. Basically, we have a 1 in the 0th row and 0th column, right? Similarly, when we'll be at this index, Okay, so we'll mark 1 at the first column. I'm sorry, in the first row and in the first column, right? Okay. So basically we are marking the rows and columns which contains one, right? Which contains a single one or multiple ones. Okay. Yeah. So once we are done with this loop, we'll have something like this, right? We'll have two arrays with these values, right? So now with the help of these two arrays, I can convert the values of this original matrix, right? So what I can do is I can write another loop, something like this. Again, for I equal to 0 to I less than m I plus plus, for j is equal to 0 to j less than n j plus plus, right? What I can write is I have to convert matrix of ij to something either 0 to 1, right? So if I mean if we have a single one, so if that row is marked, right? So if just wait for a second. So if that row, I mean if row of I is equal to 1, that means okay, there is one, there is there is a single one or multiple ones in that row, or if that column has, uh, that jth column has one or ones, right? In that case, we'll have to convert that matrix of ij to 1. Okay, so this is how we are converting all other values of matrix with the help of these two arrays. Like let's say if we are at this index, right? Okay. So again, we are in the value of I will be 0 and the value of j will be 2, right? So row of I mean the row of 0 is 1 because here we have 1, right? That means okay, in the first row, all the values should be converted to 1, right? Because there is one in the first row, I mean in the 0th row. That's why we should convert this value to 1. Okay. Or let's say if we are at this index, right? Okay, so for this value, the value of I will be 2 because it's the second row and it's the 0th column, right? So j will be 0. Okay, so again, row of 2 is not 1 because we don't have any 1 in the second row, but yes, we have 1 in the 0th column because column of 0 is 1 because we have a 1 in the 0th column. That's why we need to convert this value to 1, right? Okay, so this is how we are converting this matrix to something like this, right? Well, yeah, with the help of these two arrays, row and column, right? So now the cost of this for loop is m cross n, and also the cost of this for loop is m cross n, right? So it's m cross n plus m cross n, which is eventually m cross n only, right? Also, we are using only two arrays, this and this, right? So again, the cost and so space complexity is nothing but O of m plus n because O of m for this array and O of n for this array, right? So this is O of m plus n, right? So the space is O of m plus n. The space is O of m plus n, and the time is m cross n. So now it is better than the previous solution. Yeah. Let me know if this is clear so that I can. Actually, again, this is not the most optimized way, but yeah, this is the one way. So let me know if it is clear. I mean, I can read your comments, so you can simply let me know if it's clear. Yeah. So anyone who is not able to understand this thing? See, I mean, actually on this link you can find the video again, right? So you can. Mhm. Okay, Mayank is saying I was very close to method 3. Okay, that's good. Don't worry. Again, I mean uh, the solutions are there on on GFG article, on GeeksForGeeks article. So like what you can do is you can simply, I mean, if it's not clear, then what you can do is you can simply go to the link of the question. You will have that solution, right? So you'll have all these methods. Okay. So yeah, this was the method I'm talking about, the row and column, right? So that method is given there. If this is not clear, then you can go to that, right? There is method 4, which is the most optimized way of solving this, right? So I mean, the idea is we don't need two extra arrays. We can solve this problem in m cross n time and in O of one space. We don't need two arrays, right? So this is the best solution. And I'll recommend you to try the solution by yourself, right? And if you are not able to solve that problem by yourself, then you can have a look at the solution given here, right? So here the O of one space solution is explained, right? So you can have a look at that, right? Okay. So I won't explain that thing because again that will take another 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So let's ignore that. Try by yourself and then you can have a look at the solution if it's not clear, right? Okay. Okay, let's try to solve a different question, right? So the question is uh, checking whether two strings are anagram of each other, right? Anagram means, like, let's say if you have a string like uh, AKM, then the string called KMA, both these strings are anagram, right? Because if we can achieve this string, okay, so let's say if any permutation of this string is equal to this string, right? Like let's say if we are arranging the characters of this string like this, KMA, it will become KMA, right? So basically we can get this string by changing the orders of characters, right? So if we can get, if after changing the characters, or I would say if after changing the order of characters, we can get this string KMA, right? That means okay, they are anagram, right? But let's say if you have something like this, uh, A C D, and we have D K F, sorry, D K A. These strings are not anagram because you can't. Like we can't create this string by changing the order of characters, right? Because here we don't have K, right? So these are not anagram. But yeah, this string is anagram. So we'll be given two strings, let's say a string S1 and a string S2. We'll have to check whether, so if these two strings are anagram, we'll have to return true. Otherwise, we'll have to return false. Okay. So if the two strings are anagram, return true, otherwise false. Yes, you can. Yes, you can try. Using array and store the position of one. So you can try and you can try and try the solution in multiple ways. Mhm. Yeah. So how we can check whether two strings are anagram of each other or not? Or not? Manpreet, let's say we can't use the next permutation inbuilt method for now. Okay, AP Singh is saying the method one is sorting, right? So what we can do is we can simply sort both the strings. Like after sorting, this string will be something like this. AKM will be converted to AKM only, right? After sorting. But KMA will be converted to, so basically we are sorting all the characters of that string. So it will be AKM, right? So if after sorting, if they are same, that means okay, they are anagram of each other. So what we are doing is we are simply sorting both the strings, and if after sorting they are equal, that means okay, they are anagram, right? So we are simply sorting both the strings, right? And if so I'm sorting S1 then S2, and if they're equal after sorting that, so they are in a gram, right? So that's the method one. Okay. So I hope this approach is clear, like how sorting is helping us to check whether these two strings are anagram or not. Is it clear? Well, so what is the time complexity for this approach? So this approach, the time complexity is, let's say the length of this string is n1. Again, they will have the same length. If the length is not equal, then they can't be anagram, right? So the length must be same. So let's say the length is n. So in that case, sorting the strings will take n log n time, right? So it is n log n, right? Yeah. And then again, comparing the strings will take O of n time. But okay, so it's n log n plus n, which is n log n only, right? So time is n log n. Space is O of 1 only because we are not using any extra space. So space is O of 1. Space is constant. Okay. So this is the method one. The second method could be like, I mean, if you can observe this thing carefully, you'll see that okay, in anagrams, the frequency of all the characters should be same, right? Like let's say if we have string like A C D, and we have A C C A D A, right? So again, these two strings are anagram, right? Uh, because again, all the characters in the string one is there in the string two. So if every character is there in the string one, is also there in the string that is their anagram, right? So we can simply find the frequency of each character, okay, and in a string one, and we can compare the frequency of each character in string two. If they are same, then we are good. I mean, that's okay. They are anagram, right? So yeah, so basically using, so it's a kind of hashing, right? So either you can use an array or something, or you can use a hash map or something, and we can simply store the frequency of each character. If the frequency of each character is equal, that means okay, they are anagram, right? Yeah, you can use another question is, can't do by summing. Yes, you can do. I mean, if the length of the characters are same, in that case you can do it by summing, right? Yeah. Okay, there are multiple ways, and there are a few more ways to solve this. So I'll share the link on that GeeksForGeeks article. You can see the other links as well, right? Yeah, summing can also work, right? If the length are same, then calculating the sum of both the strings is another solution that you can use. Yeah. Okay. Uh, let me quickly do one thing. Let me share one more solution. Let me share one more question. Quickly. Hmm. Just wait for a second, right? Uh, okay, so I hope you know the range of integers, right? Like integers have range from something like minus 10 to the power 9 to 10 to the power 9. So in this range, so this is the approximate, right? You can see the exact value somewhere. So initially, I mean, if you know the YouTube views, right? Let's say there's a video on YouTube, right? So again, to count the number of views on YouTube, let's say if the views are stored in an integer, right? And 10 to the power 9 is nothing but it's 1 billion, right? Okay. So initially, the YouTube was using integers to store that, I mean, the view of a video, right? The views of a video, right? But then in 2012, there was a video. I mean, if you see the Gangnam Style video, right? So the Gangnam Style video is there. It's a song, right? Gangnam Style. If you know that video, yeah. So this was the first YouTube video which had more than 1 billion views, right? Okay, 1 billion is 10 to the power 3 million views, right? So it was the first video on YouTube, and then the view of that video, again, I mean, if you have, let's say, if you're using integer, and if so, let's say you want to store something like, uh, let's say if the range is this much, and then you want to store something like this plus 5, right? So you can't store that value in the integer, right? So it will cause the integer overflow, right? So I mean, after that, YouTube started showing that wave in negative number, right? So then they changed the code, and then they used long integer, when long for storing the video, right? Because in the long you can store 10 to the power 18, and the range of long is approx 10 to the power 18, right? Yeah. So now they're using this long, right? But let's say if you want to store count of something uh, in a number, in a long or integer, right? And let's say if the count of that thing could be 10 to the power 20, or let's say 10 to the power in the range of 10 to the power 25, right? So how we can store that big number? I mean, how we can store a number which has a range 10 to the power 20, 30, 40, and so on, right? So how we can store that big number? Yeah, so that's the problem. I hope you got the question right. So basically, let's say if you're given a long, very big number, then how we can store that number, and how we can, add these two numbers, right? Let's say if you want to perform addition of these two numbers, then how we can do that? Yeah, someone is saying big integer. Let's say big integer is not allowed. Someone is saying array. Makes sense. So we can use an array of integers, right? Just wait for a second. Uh, well, okay. Yeah, so array is one solution, right? Like you can go with the array. Like let's say if you have the array of size 30, then you can store numbers, which can have 30 digits, right? Like let's say if you have 135, so let's say the number is 135, right? So you can store like this, 1, 3, and 5, right? And so on, right? That's the one way. Uh, can we use something, again, linked list is another option, but the best option will be strings, right? So you can use something like a string. It's a string S1, and you can store that number like this, right? Because like in case of array, right, for each digit you are, let's say if this is array of integers, right? In that case, for each digit you are wasting 4 bytes, because I mean the memory required for one integer is 4 byte, right? But if we are like, okay, in that case, if we have, let's say, 3 digits in a number like this, in that case we will be using 12 bytes, right? Okay, but if we are using a string to store this number like this, in that case, for each character we'll be using only 1 byte, because the size of carry is 1 byte, right? So we can store a string of size 3 in 3 bytes. So it's a better choice to you go with the strings. Yeah. So that's why, let's say, we are using strings to store those big numbers, right? So let's say if we have a number like a very big number like this. So what we can do is we can simply store that number as string s1 equal to, let's say, 2005 and something, right? Let's say we can have a very big number, right? Let's say you can't store this number in a, let's say, in a long into an int. But yes, we can store this number in a string, right? So we can have a string like this to represent a number, to represent count of something, right? Yeah. So strings are the best option, right? Well, the question is how we can increment the way, right? Okay, that's the question. So how we can? So let's say if we are given two strings, then how we can add two strings? Let's say we have strings. This one. Let's say we have another string called s2. Let's say we have to add these two strings. Like let's say if add means like let's say if we have s1 is 137. Let's say s2 is say 6782, right? Let's say these are two numbers, right? So the sum should be, let's say if we add this number, then the sum will be, let me use my calculator. Okay, I can add it without calculator. So it will be okay, so it will be 137 plus sorry 137 67. Start from the end, right? So it should be like 9, then 8, then 7, right? So the sum should be this much, right? 7819. Okay. So let's say if you have two numbers, 137 and 6782, then the sum will be 7819, right? So that's why the sum of these two strings should be a string having value this much, right? So the sum will be this much. Question is, we'll be given two strings like this, and we'll have to, again, the string can be large like this. Then we'll have to find, or we'll have to calculate the sum of the two given strings like this. But to return a string like this, right? Which should be the sum of this. I mean, so that is, if we can represent that number as that string as a number, then that number should be the sum of these two numbers, right? So the strings are representing some numbers. That numbers can be really big, and the result string should be the summation of these two strings, or I would say summation of these two numbers and convert it to a string, right? I hope you got the question. Like, so we'll have to, again, you can't use a store. I mean, you can't store this number in an integer, right? So you can't use a store. You can't convert this string to integer, right? Because it's too large, right? Well, so this is the problem. We'll be going to strings like this, and we'll have to add them, and we'll have to return a string like this, which should be the sum of these two large numbers. Again, these numbers can be small like this, but the result should be a string like this, which should be the summation of these two numbers. And let's say these strings are representing some numbers. I hope the question is clear. Let me know if the question is not clear. I can explain the question again. Okay, recursion is one way. We can also use I mean, you can use a for loop or something. Yeah. Okay, so we can simply use some for loop to solve this problem. So let me know if okay. So let's see like how we can solve, like how we can add these two strings. Let's say we are given this two strings, then how we are adding them. Well, let's okay, or you can take some time. You can try to solve this problem by yourself, and then I'll discuss the solution, right? So you can try by yourself. So just use this example, like how we can add these two strings, right? Okay. Just take some time and try to, you know, uh, come with a logic that can solve this problem. Yeah. Just take some time and try to think. Well, okay, let me show you something that might help you. So just wait for a second. Yeah. So yeah, what I was saying is, like let's take that example when, let's say, we have string 137 and then we have another string with value. Uh, let me show you here only. Well, so you see like how we have solved this, like how we have added these two strings, right? So the idea is, I mean, we have to add these strings from end, right? So if you're string like 137, right? So we should reverse the string, right? The string should be reversed to 731, right? Because we'll have to add from the beginning, right? We'll have to add from. So basically, I mean, to add this two strings, what we can do is we should add these two characters first, right? Or I would say these two digits first, right? So if I can reverse both the strings, this is 7682, and if I can reverse that, if I can reverse them, then it can be 2867, right? So now I have reversed string, and the purpose of reverse is like now I can add these characters, or I would say these digits easily, right? Okay. So the first step is I'll reverse both of them so that I can have something like this. So again, these are the strings. We are not converting them in the numbers because we can't convert them in numbers because the strings are so large that we can't convert them to the numbers, right? So they are strings only, right? So and we have just reversed the strings. Okay. Now what I can do is I'll have a loop. Like let's say the m is the size of this string and n is the size of this string, right? Okay, they can be of different size. Like here m is 3 and n is 4 because here we have four digits in this number and here we have 3 digits in this number, right? So we'll have like I'll have loop like this while I is less than m and j is less than n. So basically, I and j will be 0 initially, right? So basically, let's say this is the I and j, right? So we can simply add them, right? So again, now I can convert one character to one integer. Like let's say we have x, so x could be nothing but s1 of I minus 0, right? So let's say if s1 is 7, which is a character 7, right? So if 7 minus 0 will be nothing but 7, right? So now I can convert a single digit to a single, I would say a single character to a single number, right? So I can simply write s of I minus 0 character, which will return me 7, right? Because the difference between 7, because the difference between a sky value of 7 and a sky value of 0 is 7, right? Okay. So let's say this is the x is 7. And similarly, the y could be, y is again an integer. So int of y could be s2 of j minus 0, right? Like here s2 is 2, so character 2 minus character 0, which will be 2. So now I have two numbers, one is 7, one is 2, right? So I can add them and the sum will be 9. So the x plus y, let's say z is x plus y, which is a number, and now I can convert that number to character, right? I can simply write 9 plus 0, which will be 9, character 9, right? Okay. So basically I'll have a string in which I'll append this character 9 at the beginning. Yeah. And again, if, okay, like here in this example, the sum will be 11, right? So if we have a number 11, in that case, like we can't write 11, we'll have to write 1 here, right? So we can simply, and let's say if we have sum is 12, in that case, we'll have to write 2 here. So the number which we'll be writing here is the mod 10. So if this sum is more than 10, in that case, I'll take mod with 10. That's how I'll have 1. And I'll have carry is equal to 1 because this number is more than 10. So I'll have a carry which will be added next time here, right? And for this value, I'll write 1. Okay? And now I have carry 1. So carry plus this is 8, right? 7 plus this carry 1, right? And now the carry will be 0 because it's not more than 10. And now the 7 is 7. So again, if we don't have a number here, then we can simply copy all the numbers like this, right? So it will be same, right? So now here we have something like this, a string like this, and now I can reverse the string, and I'll have something like this, right? So I'll reverse the string 1, I'll reverse the string 2, I'll add them like this using some for loop and while loop, okay? And then I'll again reverse the summation or result of the string to get the answer like this. So basically we can reverse this, right? So this is the logic. I hope you can so Sai Madhumita, we can't use s to I because these numbers are so large that these numbers will not fit in the range of integers or long. That's why we can't use s to I. So sum can't exceed to 20, right? Like the sum of two digits can't be more than, it can't be more than, in fact, 18, right? Or it can be more than 19. Yeah. So the sum of two digits will be in the range of 0 to 19, right? It can't be more than 20 or equal to 20. Yeah, in the interview they want to say like, okay, can you solve this problem? Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So let me write some code. Let me know if the logic is clear so that I can write the code and explain the things again. But before that, let me know if the code, if the logic is clear. And let me know if this is clear to everyone. Well, now let me write some code just so that you can, so that things will be clear. So what I'll do is I'll I'll reverse the string s1. I also reverse the string s2. Then let's say we have two integers I equal to 0. These are the indices, right? So that I can iterate in the have something like this. While I is less than m. Let's say m is the length of s1. M is the length of s1. Let's say n is the length of s2, right? So let's say we have n, which is n is the length of s2, and they can be of different length, right? While so basically this loop will run when both this condition is true, right? What we'll do is, let's say we have x is nothing but the s1 of I, but we can have a digit. And let's say we have y is equal to O of j minus. Don't worry, this question is there on GeeksForGeeks, right? So I'll share all the links. This question is there. I'm talking about this question. Yeah. So this question is there on GeeksForGeeks. So I'll share the link. I mean, if you're not able to understand the logic, you can go through this again and see the complete working code here as well, right? So don't worry about my code. If I'm missing something, don't worry. You will have the working code. Now I'll have this grid as x plus y. Okay, let's say we'll have a character. Let's say we have integer. Let's say c. The character which will be used there. So it will be z. Let's say initially the carry will be 0, right? So carry will be yeah. So the c will be mod 10. Carry will be again. Carry will be uh, z by 10 if it's more than 10, right? Otherwise the carry will be 0, right? And again, we need to add the carry as well, because in some cases the carry will be there. So we'll need to add the carry as well here. Initially the carry will be 0. Okay. Now this is the number this is the digit which should be added to the string. So let's say we have the string, which is the answer. Uh, so this is the answer, right? So I'll add that character to that string. I'm appending this character c to the string, right? The character will be nothing but the c plus 0. Like let's say if the c is 1, right? Or let's say the c is 2, in that case it will be the character 2, right? Yeah. Okay, let's say if the length of again, either m can be less than n or n can be less than m. Right? So for both the condition, let's say if we have more characters in the first string and we don't have any character in the second string, in that case what we can do is we can iterate through the remaining characters of a string one, right? So let's say we have this. We won't have, sorry, we'll have this thing here, I plus plus and j plus plus, right? Because we'll have the carry, so we'll have the carry, and yeah, things will be same. Basically, for remaining characters of string one, I'm simply adding them. Interesting thing is that we can have carry as well. Like let's say if we have string like this, 99. Let's say this, and the one string could, let's say the one string is 9999 is the one is 1, right? In this case, of course, we'll be done with the first character, but again, the carry will be there for all these characters, right? So that's why we are using the carry everywhere, right? For all the remaining characters. Yeah. Similarly, in some cases, the length of the first string can be less than the second string. In that case, sorry, the length of the second string can be more than first string, so it should be j. Let's say this is a y of uh, J. Yeah. So here again we'll have to do I plus plus, and here we have to do J plus plus. Right? Yeah, and then at the end we'll have to, if again if the carry is one, we'll have to add one in the string as well at the end, right? We add the character one, yeah, and then we can reverse the string, and then we can return the answer. Right? Long code, but yeah, I mean it's not that tough to understand. Yeah, Mr. Doctor Professor is saying I'm from Israel. Uh, Learning programming is a hobby, hoping to find a job. Somebody, yes, you will. You can get a job, right? Yeah. Okay. Can you? I mean, is there any doubt in this code? Are you able to understand this code? It's a lengthy code, but the logic is not that tough, right? You can. I mean, let me share the link so that you can understand what is going behind the scene. So, is there someone who is not able to understand this code? I can explain if it's not very clear. Why you reverse the string? Okay, because we need to add the characters from the reversed order, right? Okay, Shivam. Let's say if we are adding 8 and 7, right? And 8 and 7. In that case, when the sum will be 15, right? The sum will be 15, right? But what we write is we write 5, and that C will come as, let's say Z is 15, right? The C is nothing but the 15 mod 10, which is uh 5. Basically, we'll be writing 5 here, right? So let's say we have some more characters here, we have some more characters here, right? And so on, right? We are adding 7 and 5. So basically, we'll write 5 here at that index, okay? That's why we are doing this mod, just to get that digit. And then we'll have a carry, right? So the carry will be nothing but the 1, right? The carry should be nothing but the 1. How I can get 1? 15 by 10 to 1. If the sum is less than 10, then this value will be equal to 0. That's why we don't, I mean, we'll have 0 as the carry. Okay, that's why I'm doing these two things. Carry, mod, divide by 10, yeah? And for that digit, we are taking mod so that we can have that digit 5 or something. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I mean, okay, so see, the idea of this workshop is at least you will have the, you will know that, okay, these are the questions that I should learn. These are the topics that I should, focus on, right? Yeah. So in that way, this workshop is really helpful. Like, okay, you will have a list of questions, you will have a list of concepts that you should go through, right? Again, you can learn all these things by yourself. You don't need a coaching or a tuition or something, right? You can learn all these things by yourself, right? Like I have learned all these things without a coaching class or something, right? So you don't need a class or something to learn these things. You can simply learn these things with the help of websites like Geeks4Geeks and with the help of some YouTube channels, right? I mean, the idea of this workshop is you will have at least I would say, okay, you will have at least the uh, knowledge, like, okay, I'll have to learn all these things, I'll have to go through all these topics, and yeah, I'll have to solve all these questions, right? So that's the purpose of this workshop, right? So you know yeah, that's the idea. Of course, some things might not be clear, uh, and that's fine, I guess, because you can learn all these things by yourself by going through that link. Yeah. So don't worry if you are not able to understand something. So that's perfectly fine. Some things might take some more time to understand, and that is okay. Like you can go through those links again, and you can try to understand those problems again, right? So that's the thing that you can try. Okay. Okay, if you did not understand something, that is fine. Like you can, so you can simply drag on that code on pen and paper. You will see like, okay, how, why we are doing that step, right? Okay. Please explain why did you use next to while. Akriti is saying why did you use, okay. Okay, let me explain that. So that is a I mean, that's an interesting question actually. That's a common doubt so yeah. The question from Akriti is why we are using the two while, right? The next two whiles. Okay, let me explain. Mm, well, so let's say if we have something like this. Let's say if we have, let's say we are adding number like this. Let's say we are adding 9972, and let's say one number is 9, right? Okay. So in that case, right? In that case, again we'll have to reverse that. So the reverse number will be 799 and 9, right? So in the first loop, we are simply writing while I is less than m and j is less than n, right? So like this loop will run only for this line, right? So we'll have 1 and the carry will be equal to 1, right? Now we need another loop so that we can add, I mean, so that we can, use all these remaining characters. So that's why we have another loop for while I is less than m. Okay. So if the length of string 1 m is greater than length of string 2, right? In that case, we need this loop, right? Similarly, we have one more loop while j is less than n, and this loop is for the condition where, like, let's say if you have n, like, let's say if a string is s1 is 9 and a string 2 is 9 and 7 2. In that case, 9 then 2 7 9 n, right? So to process the remaining characters of the string 2, we need this loop, right? Yeah. So if the lengths are equal, then we'll have, so this loop will handle the, the portion where the lengths are equal, right? This loop will handle the, if the length of the string 1 is more than the length of the string 2, so that we can process the remaining digits of string 1, right? And this loop is for this case where the length of the string 2 is more than the length of the string 1, right? Yeah, so I hope this is clear. Let me know if it's clear. Manpreet is saying what you can do. I mean, if you don't know something, then you can try to solve the problem, right? Or of course, you can ask for the hint, right? They might provide you some hints if you're not able to do something, if you're not able to solve something. Yeah? So it's okay to know. It's okay to. It's okay if you don't know something. Right? Well, uh, Shrini is asking in interviews, mostly repeat questions will be asked. Yes, mostly you will see the questions which are very common for the interviews, right? So they, of course, they ask new questions, but I would say 80% questions will be same or similar. Like they can twist some of the questions, right? But if you have solved all the varieties of questions, then you can easily solve the variation of those questions, right? Okay. Uh, hmm. Yes, you can ask for the hint in the interview, right? So if the question is later, in that case, they will give you hint. Okay. Uh, yeah, you can ask for the hint, right? Okay, the time complexity is nothing but the O of m plus n, right? So let's say if the length of this string is m and n, the cost of this loop is nothing but the O of m plus n, right? So the cost is nothing but that's the time complexity. Because we have simply iterating the string one and string two, so that's simple. Yeah. What kind of jobs? I mean, the role is called software engineer, right? Yeah. Well, and again, this is simply O of one, right? Again, let me do one thing. See, I mean, we don't have that much time to discuss everything in this workshop, but the purpose is you should. I mean, at least I should uh, you know should cover the topics which is important for the interview, right? So that's why, of course, there are a lot of questions on the string. So I'll share those links in that block, and you can try those questions by yourself, right? Okay. Uh, okay. So Isha is asking in second year, and what should be most focused on programming or development? I mean, see, programming is more important for placement, right? So you should focus more on this algo. Development is one thing, but development will not take that much time. Like you can build a project in, let's say, 1 month, or I would say 1 month means, of course, you can. I mean, while doing your college, like while attending the classes and semester exams and all these things, you can build something in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, right? You can build a project, right? And that's sufficient. But to learn coding, it can take 6 months, it can take 1 year, right? So learning JSON is tougher, is the tougher thing, I would say. It's not that easy. So yeah, you should focus on coding mainly to get a job, right? Yeah, because you can learn development in 1 month. It's not that tough. But learning DSA is really challenging. It can take 6 months to 1 year. Yeah. Your development will be much more efficient if you have strong apps in DSA. It's little bit true, but I mean, you can be a good developer. I mean, good at development without knowing everything of DSA, right? Like let's say if you can build a really good app without knowing trees, right, or without knowing graph, right? So DSA is not important for development. I mean, all DSAs are not important for DSA. Like you can build something without knowing trees, linked list, and graph, or DP. Yeah. But again, for interviews, these things are important. Implementation, yeah, both the things are important, right? Like you should know what is DS and algo, how to solve a problem, and then you should also know how to implement that solution. You should know how to write the code, right? So everything is important. Coding, problem solving, using a DS and algo. So everything is important. Uh, I mean, it depends like how much time do you have, right? So it depends on the time that you have. So if you don't have much time, then you can. I mean, your target should be more, right? So what is DP or CP? What is DP? I didn't get. I mean, okay, so DP means development. Okay, so okay, the CP is very close to the questions which are asked in the interviews, right? Like in CP, you'll be solving questions on this and algo. So yeah, CP will help you to get a job, like in the interviews, right? Of course, development is one thing which will also help you to get a job, but the point is you can learn development easily. Like you can learn development in 1 month, right? And I mean, you can get a job with a very simple project, right? But you can't get a job with simple knowledge of DSN algo. So you should be really good at DSN algo to get a good job, right? Yeah. Okay. I just replied that thing. So you should focus more on DSA, right? The next question from C. I mean, you can be a good data scientist without knowing some of the DSA thing, right? But to get a job, you need DSA. That's the idea, right? Yeah. And again, I mean, in any field, like you will be working with data, right? And data structures are the ways to store data. So I think the basic DSA is required everywhere, right? In data science or in any field, it's important, right? So if you don't know, let's say merge sort, and if you don't know, let's say any algorithm, then you can't build a model of machine learning, right? So because in machine learning also you'll be using some algorithms, right? So and these things are important for every field, right? Yeah. Um, I mean, anything is fine, but if you have some internship, that's good. Otherwise, you can build something by your own, like you can build some projects, right? So, yeah. Manpreet, you can build anything, right? You can build anything. Like you can build on front end, you can build something on back end, or on Android, or on iOS, or on DevOps, or on AI/ML. So anything is fine. Domain is not important. Like you can build anything in any language or in any domain or in any framework. Everything will have the equal weightage, right? Keshav, to do masters, I mean, you should crack the gate. I mean, the exam called what the exam is. I'm just I can't remember the name. It's the exam, right? So you just need to clear the exam, right? So to get the admission, there's no need of DSA or development. You can get admission in those universities without having. Uh, no, it's not GATE. It's so so GATE is for Indian colleges like IITs and all. The exam is called GRE. Yeah, GRE. Yeah. So you'll have to take the GRE. Right? So that's all. Like some universities will have their coding rounds. Some universities can have some interviews as well. Yeah, but most of them, I mean, they don't care about your knowledge. If you're able to crack the GRE, then with the help of the GRE rank, you can or GRE score, you can get the admission, right? Yeah. But again, to get a job, so I don't know, like why do you want to do masters in abroad? So again, if your end goal is to get a job, you need DSA, right? I mean, and there also you need DSA to get a job, right? So DSA is everywhere. I mean, you can't get a job without DSA, right? That's the idea. Uh, no, I mean, Git is not required, but I mean, if you know Git, that's fine. You'll have the plus point, but it's not compulsory to get a job, right? Yes, you can get a good job if you have a strong grasp on DSA. Yeah, and if you have a little bit of development, yeah, so you can get a good job. Yeah? I mean, if you have a lot of money, then you can go for the masters, right? And if you don't have lot of money, then you can do a job and you can, you know, get good jobs, right? So masters are not required to get a good job. Like you can still get a job in Google, let's say Facebook London or Google California, without doing masters, right? So masters are not compulsory to get a good job anywhere, right? So, but yeah, if you have a lot of money, then you can go for the masters. And masters can help you to get a job easily, uh, in a way, because those companies, like if you are in USA, then it's easier to get a job in US, right? Yeah. So that's the only benefit of doing masters. Otherwise, you can get a job anywhere without masters. So I'm not a big fan of any other degree like MTech or masters. I'm not a big fan of all those things. Right? My friends are there in Facebook London, they're in Google California, and they have not done masters or anything. Yeah? So BTech is fine. But you can learn all these things by yourself. Like you don't need a degree to learn all these things. Like you can learn all these things by yourself, right? So you don't need to pay that huge amount to learn all these things, right? I mean, they will teach you similar thing. They will teach you the DBMS, the networking, the OS, same thing, right? You can learn all these things on YouTube or by going through some books. So that they don't teach something which you can't learn by yourself, right? So you can learn all these things by yourself, right? No, they don't. I mean, the level is different, right? Like in service-based companies, they ask very basic questions, right? They don't ask questions like I discussed this like the Boolean matrix and the sum of two strings. So these questions will not be asked in the service-based companies. So they ask very basic questions. Right? So you can crack those companies very easily. Yeah? You don't need in-depth knowledge of DSA to get a job in these service-based companies. No, I mean, see, and I have not given the GATE exam, and none of my friends have given the GATE exam, right? And all of them are in good companies like Amazon, Facebook, Google, and they have not given any exam, right? So GATE is not important for CSE, or I would say any student, right? Uh, I mean, see, I mean, in internship also you build some project, right? So project is important, right? If you have some project, that's good. Okay. Well, it is important for your on-campus job because in on-campus, some companies will have some cutoff mark. Like let's say if, like in my college, like some companies have cutoff of let's say 7 CGPA. So if your CGPA is less than, let's say, 7, in that case you will not be able to appear in the interview, right? So that's the one thing. But for off-campus interviews, these things are not important. This thing is only for the on-campus. For the first job, for your second or multiple jobs, I mean, these things are not important. Okay, I mean, you can get a job without having from a good college, right? So there are a lot of guys who are not from good college and they're still working in a good company like Uber, Microsoft, Adobe, or Amazon, right? So you can get a good job without being from a good college, right? So masters is not the only option to get a job, right? Okay. Again, I mean, if you have a lot of money, then of course you can go for the masters, right? Uh, yes, they hire. Yeah, yeah, they don't care about your CGPA, right? So CGPA is not important for your for the FANG interviews. They don't care about your language. Like you can go with any language, so anything is fine. Okay, you can simply search on YouTube like how to apply or how to crack off-campus interviews, right? So I have a video on YouTube. Yeah, so you can simply go through that video to know about like how we can apply for the off-campus and how we can crack the off-campus interviews, right? So you can watch that video. Yeah, and also you can follow, like you can read the answers on Quora. A lot of developers have written the procedure, like how you can apply for the off-campus, how you can crack those off-campus interviews, right? So all these things are there on YouTube and on Quora. You can go through those articles or those videos to know about the process in depth, right? Well, by solving a lot of problems, you can improve your problem solving skills. That's the only way. Okay. See, for any role, I mean, if you are targeting a good company, you should be really good at DSNL, right? They don't care about your domain, right? So whether you are from back end or front end or from big data or from DevOps or from testing. Okay, so in testing, they ask little easier questions, but for profiles like data engineer or ML engineer or let's say DevOps, again in DevOps also they ask little easier questions, but yeah, you should have a good knowledge of DSN algo. Yeah. So normally for the normal SD role, like for the back end and front end, they ask really good questions on DSN algo. And also some companies are asking good questions on DSN algo for any role, like whether it is ML engineer or data engineer. For any role, you will have to crack those tough coding rounds, right? Again, it depends on company to company. Actually, you can simply search in Google, search on YouTube, right? Like how to crack off-campus interview, right? So it's that simple. I hope you know how to search things. Uh, Not at all. I mean, see, companies are hiring, right? So the IT industry is the among very few industries which are least impacted by this corona, right? So this corona pandemic has not affected the IT industry a lot, right? And if you so I mean if you can see the revenue of these companies like Adobe or Amazon or Microsoft, the revenue of all these companies have increased, right? So they are doing good, or I would say they are doing better in this pandemic, right? So this software companies are expanding, they are hiring a lot of engineers, right? So I don't think any change in the off-campus interviews. Again, there are some companies like, let's say if a company uh, is in the domain of, let's say, traveling, or it's a domain of food, right? So those companies were affected, right? Like because I mean the food and the tourism was impacted, right? So I mean, but for other companies, I mean things are totally fine, right? Yeah, so I don't think any big change in off campus or on campus hiring. After third year is fine. So if you have one internship, that is fine, right? In fact, you can get a job without doing an internship, right? So internship is not compulsory, but it's good to have, right? So you can do internship after third year. Yeah. I have said this thing multiple times. So they expect you to write code. They expect you to solve some coding questions, right? So the expectation is you should know DSN algo. You should know how to solve a problem. You should know how to write a code of that problem, right? So they ask questions based on DSN algo, and you'll have to solve that problem. You'll have to write the code, right? Apart from that, they can ask some questions on OS, networking, and DBMS, but the main focus will be on your coding skills. The main focus will be on DSA, right? Nothing else. You can get a job without knowing Gate or without knowing AIML or without knowing some framework, right? So those things are not important. Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. The age should not be a big factor in hiring, right? I know someone who was in military, who was in defense, and so there was a guy in Adobe who joined Adobe as a software engineer in Adobe USA, and he was in defense, right? He was in military, yeah. So and he learned coding. He cracked the interview, and now he's in a software engineer. Right? So you can, I mean, switch your profile anytime. Yeah. So age should not be a big factor. I mean, but in that case, it's tough to get an interview call, right? And to get the interview call, you should do something impressive. Like you can build something impressive, or you can, uh, do something really impressive on computer coding or something, so that companies can contact you to, for the interviews, right? So it's really tough to get the interview call. Yeah, but again, to do that, you can do something impressive. Same thing, right? You can do the same thing. You can simply learn DS and you can take the interviews, right? So all these companies ask similar or same thing. They ask questions on DS and algo, right? So this is the key, right? Yes, they consider, like, I mean, see, like I'm from NIT Allahabad, so in my college, companies will allow BTech guys and MCA guys and MTech guys, right? So all of them can appear for the same interview, and they are paid same, right? So yeah, so they don't care about the degree, right? So either you're from BTech or MTech or MCA, or you are from MSc, you will have the similar chance to get a job. You will paid in the same range, right? So they don't care about your, I would say, branch or your degree. Yeah. So if you're good at coding, then you can get a job, right? Okay. Uh, well, the yes, I mean, these things will help you. Yeah, I mean, so if you have a patent, or if you have published some research paper, or if you have something interesting, right? So these things will give you some extra edge, right, in the interview. So it's good to have. Yeah. Okay. But again, you can't ignore that. You can't ignore that DSA skill. Like you can't crack the first coding round without having a good knowledge of DSA. So DSA is very important to get a job. But yeah, these things are also important. Like these things will give you the extra edge. Uh, okay, I'm done for today. Like, so tomorrow I'll talk about bitwise operations, bitwise algorithms, like how we can do some bitwise manipulation, right? So we'll talk about those things. I also talk about uh, some puzzles which are asked in the interviews, right? So yeah, so we'll talk about all these things tomorrow. I'll solve some more questions tomorrow, right? So today I could not solve a lot of questions, but tomorrow I'll solve some more questions, right? Okay, thank you guys, bye.